The sun was sliding toward the edge of the desert when the cowboy noticed her standing beside the abandoned well at the outskirts of town. Dust clung to her skin and hair as if the land itself had tried to swallow her. Her dress hung loosely from her thin frame, torn at the hem, stained by sweat and travel. People passed her without stopping, some turning their faces away, others pretending she did not exist. She watched them go with tired eyes that had learned not to hope. When the cowboy reined in his horse, she flinched at first, expecting another insult or a harsh order to move along. Instead, he simply looked at her, taking in the exhaustion written across her face. She swallowed hard, gathering what little dignity she had left, and stepped closer. "I only have $2, she said, opening her hand to show the small, crumpled bills. Her voice was weak but steady. "Please, let me shower at your home, cowboy." For a long moment he said nothing. The wind moved through the dry grass between them, and the distant sounds of the town faded away. He had heard stories, warnings whispered by men who feared what they did not understand. An Apache woman alone was trouble, they said. But as he studied her, he didn't see danger. He saw someone who had been pushed past the edge of survival. "You ain't from around here," he finally said. She shook her head slowly. "I don't belong anywhere anymore." Something about the way she said it tightened his chest. He glanced at the $2 again, then back at her face. "You don't need to pay me," he said. "You look like you haven't eaten in days." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "You'd help me." "For nothing." "I didn't say nothing," he replied. "You can wash up, get some food. Then we'll talk." Tears threatened to spill, but she forced them back, nodding quickly as if he might change his mind. She walked beside his horse as they headed toward the ranch, her steps slow but determined. The house came into view, simple and worn but solid, safe. As he opened the door and let her step inside first, the cowboy felt a strange unease settle in his chest. He didn't know her name, her past, or what trouble might follow her. But he knew that turning away someone this broken would have been the greater sin. And without realizing it, both of their lives had just shifted onto a new path. Warm steam filled the small bathroom as water poured over her head, washing away layers of dust and exhaustion that had clung to her for weeks. The Apache woman stood still beneath the stream, eyes closed, breathing slowly, as if afraid the moment might disappear if she moved too quickly. Dirt swirled down the drain, but it wasn't only filth she was letting go of. Fear, shame, and long nights of hunger seemed to melt away with the heat. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, she felt human again. On the other side of the door, the cowboy sat at the rough wooden table, his hat resting beside an untouched plate of food. The sound of running water echoed through the quiet house, stirring memories he hadn't invited. He glanced toward the bedroom, where an old photograph sat on the dresser, its edges worn from years of handling. His late wife's smile stared back at him, gentle and forgiving, as if asking why his heart was beating faster than it had in years. When the water finally stopped, the silence felt heavier. The door creaked open and she stepped out carefully, wrapped in a clean shirt he had left folded by the sink. Her hair hung damp around her shoulders, her face now free of grime, revealing soft features marked by hardship rather than age. She avoided his eyes, clutching the fabric close to her body. "I didn't take anything," she said quickly, fear flickering across her face. "I swear." He looked up, surprised by the panic in her voice. "I didn't think you would," he replied calmly. "You're safe here." They ate together in silence at first, the clink of utensils the only sound between them. She ate slowly, as if afraid the food might be taken away. After a while, she whispered her thanks, then began to speak of her journey. She told him about being driven from land her family had lived on for generations, about walking for days with no shelter, about men who looked at her as if she were worth less than dirt. "I tried to stay strong," she said, her hands trembling. "But the world keeps reminding me I'm alone." He listened without interrupting, anger and sadness knotting in his chest. When she finished, he cleared his throat and stood. "You can sleep on the couch tonight," he said. "No one will bother you." She hesitated, then nodded, relief flooding her face. As night settled over the ranch, neither of them slept deeply. The house felt different now, quiet but no longer empty. Morning light crept through the thin curtains, spilling across the wooden floor and waking the ranch to a quiet stillness. She rose before the cowboy, careful not to make a sound, folding the blanket he had given her with slow, deliberate movements. The couch had been the softest place she had slept in months, and she felt a strange mix of gratitude and fear, as if comfort itself were something she was not meant to keep. Outside, the air was cool and smelled of earth and animals. She picked up a broom from the porch and began sweeping without being asked, her hands moving automatically, as if work was the only language she knew how to speak. When the cowboy stepped out and saw her, he paused, watching her for a moment. "You don't have to do all that," he said gently. She stopped and met his eyes. "If I don't help, I feel useless," she replied. "I don't want to be a burden." The words struck him harder than he expected. He nodded and let her continue, though something inside him shifted. As the morning passed, she helped feed the horses, speaking softly to them as she worked. Despite her thin frame, there was strength in her movements, a quiet resilience shaped by survival rather than comfort. They shared breakfast later, and this time the silence felt easier. He told her about the ranch, about how his days blended together after his wife passed, each one lonelier than the last. She listened carefully, her expression softening with understanding. "I know what it's like to lose everything," she said. Over the next few days, a fragile routine formed. She cooked simple meals, mended torn cloth, and laughed shyly when a stubborn chicken escaped her grasp. The sound of her laughter surprised them both. It was light, uncertain, but real. He found himself lingering near doorways just to hear it again. Trouble arrived in the shape of a man from town, his eyes narrowing when he saw her. "Didn't know you were taking in Apache women now," he sneered. The cowboy stepped forward, his voice firm and cold. "She's staying here. That's all you need to know." The man scoffed but left, though his words lingered in the air long after he was gone. That night, she sat on the edge of the couch, hands clasped tightly. "Why do you protect me?" she asked quietly. He considered the question, then answered honestly, "Because no one should be treated like you were." Her eyes filled with tears, not from pain this time, but from something she hadn't felt in a long while, safety. The peace they had built was fragile, and she sensed it long before the danger arrived. One afternoon, while the wind pressed hard against the ranch house, she noticed unfamiliar tracks near the fence. Her chest tightened with a fear she knew too well. By evening, distant voices carried across the land, rough and impatient, and memories she had tried to bury came rushing back. She packed her few belongings with shaking hands, folding the clean shirt he had given her as if it were something sacred. When the cowboy entered the room and saw her, he understood at once. "I'll go," she said quickly, not meeting his eyes. "They're looking for me. I won't bring trouble to your home." He stepped into her path, his expression calm but unmovable. "You're not running anymore," he said. Before she could argue, the men arrived at the edge of the property, their voices sharp with entitlement. They demanded she be handed over, speaking of her as if she were an object that could be claimed. Fear rooted her to the floor, but the cowboy moved past her, rifle in hand, standing firm on the porch. "This is my land," he said evenly, "and she's under my protection. You step any closer and you won't like how this ends." The standoff stretched on, heavy and dangerous. At last, the men backed away, muttering threats as they disappeared into the distance. When the silence finally returned, her knees gave out, and she sank onto the steps, trembling. "And you stayed," she whispered, disbelief in her voice. He knelt beside her. "I chose you," he said simply. Days turned into weeks, and the fear slowly loosened its grip. She no longer flinched at every sound, and the ranch began to feel like something more than shelter. It felt like home. She planted herbs near the porch, sang softly while working, and smiled without forcing it. One morning, she placed the 2 crumpled dollars on the table between them. "I never paid you," she said. He pushed the money back toward her. "Keep it," he replied. "It reminds me of how this all started." She looked at him, her eyes warm and steady. She had asked for a shower and a moment of mercy. What she found was dignity, safety, and a future she thought had been lost forever.